Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more rifle testing, and today we've got a combo that a number of you guys have really wanted to see, and I have definitely wanted to try it as well. So when I finally found some of this ammo, I had to pick it up to see what it could do, since this rifle we know is capable of some very nice results, but it tends to be a little bit picky, especially when it comes to your classic big round nose soft point type of loadings. So we'll see what this combo can do. But as for the rifle I brought today, I got out my Marlin 336. This one is chambered in 35 Remington. It's got a 20-inch barrel on it with an old Tasco 3-9x40 on top. Definitely nothing fancy or nothing new, high-tech or anything about this combo. Just a close quarters, classic old woods deer gun. And I've taken a number of deer with it over the years, but it is a little particular with ammo. It really only seems to like the Hornady lever evolutions. Everything else is kind of mediocre, 2 inches or so at 100 typically is what we see for groups, but I've never tested this ammo today through it yet, so I guess we'll see what happens. But for the rounds we're going to run today, I managed to find some of these, the Winchester Power Point loads. They're a 200 grain soft point 35 Remington, and the back of the box says our muzzle velocity is 2,020 feet per second is what they're claiming. I wouldn't mind seeing a little more velocity, since these are just your standard 200 grain projectile for a 35 Remington. Even other soft points are up, 60 more feet per second or something like that. But who knows, that little bit lower velocity might help these hold their accuracy out there at 100. I have no idea. So we'll see what the power points can do, since I've never ran a Winchester loading through this particular rifle. But as for our test today, we're going to run it the same as we usually do. I've got a target set up at 100 yards. We're going to shoot 3 groups, 3 shots each, all of which will be through the chronograph as well. I will let the rifle cool down for a few minutes between each of our groups to hopefully mitigate barrel heat a little bit. It's probably about 55 degrees this morning, so we got some good conditions to keep things cool and stuff like that. So enough talking, let's get you guys a view of that target. I'll shoot all of our groups, and then we'll bring everything back here to the bench and see if this 336 likes the Winchester Power Points or not. Alright, so let's take a peek through our velocities real quick before we go look at our target. The boss claim is 2020 for these, and we have a 20-inch barrel, so we did not see that claim. We weren't too far off under it, but typically I'm used to seeing 75 feet per second under their claim or so, and that's probably about what we had here, to be honest with you. So again, I wouldn't mind seeing some more velocity out of these Winchester, but especially considering like the 200 grain Remington core locks are over that 2,000 mark, but still, this is plenty good enough for a 100-yard deer rifle. It's going to do the job. But for a high, we had 1984. For a low, we had 1928. That gave us an average of 1956. So, like I suspected, not quite 75 feet per second below their claim, but it's in the ballpark. But with an extreme spread of 56 and a standard deviation of 17. So with an average at 1956, here are your muzzle energies for a 200 grain projectile at that velocity. It's nothing overly impressive for a 35 caliber rifle, and we definitely have seen more energy out of it with some other loadings, like the 200 grain Hornady loadings that I know that rifle likes, because we have an extra 200 or so feet per second out of those, but it's still plenty good enough to do the job for a 100-yard deer gun. But let's go look at our target and see if my 336 actually liked the Winchesters today or not. Okay, so now let's look at our target and see what we got, because it's pretty interesting. Right off the bat, without even measuring it, I can tell you that out of all the soft point, big round nose bullets I've tried through that particular rifle, these have done the best. I was not a fan of the Remingtons. It was moderately okay with the Federal hammer downs, which are kind of a flat point bullet. And I know that with the Hornady Lever Evolutions, which have that pointed flex tip design on them, I know I can be right at MOA or a little better. And these aren't terribly far off, but we'll start down here at the bottom with our first group. And clearly we were hitting low here, probably due to the lower velocity. I was aiming at the center dot for this group down here, and the same with these, shooting low. We had 2 shots, and then this one over here, and I definitely pulled that round, so I decided we'll go ahead and give it a 3rd shot to actually make a good group there for us, since I know I pulled that one. And it gave us a 1.16 inch group. So a little bit over an inch. I mean, it's not the best we've seen from that rifle, but that's perfectly solid, all things considered. I would definitely hunt with that kind of group. Now we'll move over here to the left with these 3 shots in our second group. I think it's probably going to be a touch more open, but we'll measure it and see. And yes, it is at 1.29 inches, but still, we're keeping right around that 1.2 inch mark or so, plus or minus. So now we'll move over here to our third group, and I actually put 2 of them touching each other here, but that's probably just more so luck of the draw, because the overall size of the group is pretty well the same. And it gave us 1.40 inches. So between these 3 groups, we had 1.16, 1.29, and 1.40. I mean, you can call it roughly inch and a quarter or so, 1.25 on average or something of that nature. So it's a solid performance. It's not the best that I know this rifle can shoot, but it is way better than a lot of the other soft points I've tried. I just wish they had a little bit more velocity behind them like some of the other loadings do. But if this is what I had, if this is what I could find, it would absolutely knock a deer down out to 100 yards all day long. So for a lever gun with an old school Tasco scope and a relatively soft shooting, big round nose lead soft point like that, I think that's pretty decent overall. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about those results? I'd say they're perfectly solid. They're gonna be plenty usable enough on a 100-yard deer gun like that is, especially in this area where all of my shots are typically 40, 50 yards or in. I mean, that's gonna do perfectly fine. Just over an inch out to 100, there ain't gonna be a deer or hog or anything like that that's ever gonna make it through that. As long as you do your part on the trigger, it's gonna get the job done. So for a basic old school brush gun type of setup like that, it's perfectly fine. It is not quite the best I've seen, and I wouldn't mind seeing a little more velocity and carry a little more energy behind those. But if that's what I could get my hands on, yeah, I would absolutely use it all day long. So based on previous testing, it could have been way worse with a big old round soft point like that. For whatever reason, that rifle is just a little bit particular about the ammo, but those are some perfectly solid results. But leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these Winchester Power Point 35 Remington loads? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? Is that a combo you would ever hunt with, or would you like to see a little tighter grouping or a little more velocity or anything like that? And what other loads might you want to see me try and find and test through that old 336? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, you have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.